Hey, bold and beautiful fans. It is time to dive into your early weekly spoilers for the bold and the beautiful for the week of August 31st through September 4th, and there is a whole lot to unpack. Hope Logan is headed into a rough emotional stretch and turns to someone she trusts for support just when she needs it most. Meanwhile, Dylan finally hits her limit after taking one attack too many and decides she is not going to stand there and let herself get steamrolled anymore. On top of that, Sheila Carter may spot a brand new opportunity in the middle of someone else's disappointment. Daphne leaves Carter completely blindsided, and Ridge starts second-guessing something that may not sit right with him for very long. There are big feelings, messy loyalties, old wounds getting ripped open, and a lot of shifting dynamics as we move out of this week and into next. So let's do what we always do. First, we're going to walk through what is still coming up for the rest of this week, and then we will get into the early spoilers and predictions for the week ahead. Let's jump in. Starting with Wednesday, August 26th, Sheila is still trying to figure out what her life even looks like now. She is in a very strange place emotionally because so many of the people she once obsessed over being connected to are now out of reach. She is without Deacon in the way she wants him, without Finn in her life the way she always dreamed, and without access to Hayes, which is another loss Sheila is going to feel deeply whether anybody likes hearing that or not. This all flows right out of her recent conversation with Deacon, where Sheila opened up about Monaco not turning into the miracle she had hoped for. She clearly went into that whole situation wanting some kind of breakthrough, some kind of opening, some sign that her bond with Finn could be repaired. Instead, she came away empty-handed, and now she is stuck sorting through what comes next. But the bigger twist in that conversation may be what Sheila learns about Deacon and Taylor. Once Deacon admits he proposed and Taylor turned him down, that changes the whole energy. Sheila is not the kind of person who hears something like that and just files it away. She studies it. She circles it. She waits to see whether disappointment creates vulnerability. Even if Deacon insists Taylor still wants to be with him and only rejected the marriage idea, that is still not what he wanted to hear, and Sheila knows it. And let's be honest, Sheila is exactly the kind of woman who might take one little crack in a relationship and start pushing on it. If she senses that Deacon is hurt, embarrassed, or quietly rethinking things, she may see that as her cue to drift back into his orbit. She does not need a wide-open invitation. Sometimes all Sheila needs is a hint that a door is not fully closed. Elsewhere, RJ is trying hard to step forward and establish himself in a bigger way. He and Elektra have already started pitching this younger, fresher fashion concept, and while there does seem to be interest there, not everyone is fully comfortable with how it all might play out. Ridge's hesitation makes total sense from his perspective. He knows this is not just about launching another line. It is also about the message it sends, especially if Hope gets edged out or replaced in any way. Of course, the family politics are impossible to ignore. Brooke is not likely to take kindly to anything that feels like Hope is being pushed aside. Even if that is not technically what is happening, perception matters a lot in this family, and once emotions get involved, business never stays just business for very long. At the same time, there are practical questions too. Is Elektra going to have too much on her plate? Can she handle multiple projects at once? Is this going to stretch her too thin? That is where RJ may try to strengthen his own position by stepping up and making the case that he can do more. If he frames himself as the one who can carry the design side while Elektra serves as the face and inspiration behind the youth line, then suddenly this idea becomes a lot easier to sell. Now let's talk about Dylan because she is still under fire, and the attacks are getting uglier. Katie does not seem remotely interested in giving Dylan the benefit of the doubt. In fact, the more Dylan tries to exist peacefully, the more determined Katie seems to become to paint her as manipulative, untrustworthy, or out for something other than love. That whole attitude is getting harder and harder to justify. Katie is acting like Dylan must have some kind of hidden agenda simply because of where she comes from and the people connected to her. It is judgmental, it is unfair, and it is probably going to backfire. Will has already shown signs that he is tired of his mother inserting herself into his personal life. He has made it clear that whatever happened between him and Elektra is over, and he does not want to be told how to move on or with whom. If anything, Katie's relentless criticism may only make Will more defensive of Dylan. And here's the real problem for Katie. Once she starts throwing around accusations about Dylan's past and her connections, she risks crossing a line she cannot uncross. Bringing up Remy and Luna, especially as if Dylan is somehow responsible for their actions, is incredibly messy. Dylan cannot control who she is related to. She cannot rewrite her family tree. She also cannot be blamed for the behavior of people who caused chaos in her life too. That is why the backlash against Katie may start building soon. Because if Dylan has truly been honest about what happened and who these people are, then Katie is no longer protecting Will. She is just attacking somebody she has already decided not to trust. Moving to Thursday, August 27th, Dylan's story deepens in a big way. She is forced to confront pieces of her past, and it looks like the show is finally going to peel back another layer so viewers can understand her more fully. This is where her mother, Darcy Dillon, enters the picture, and that is a huge development. The arrival of a parent almost always means one thing on a soap. History is about to walk right into the room. Darcy's presence suggests we are finally going to get context, not just gossip and accusations. We're going to see where Dylan comes from, what shaped her, what she has lived through, and maybe why certain subjects remain so sensitive for her. If Dylan reaches out to her mother while all this pressure is mounting, that says a lot. It means she is overwhelmed enough to need backup. It means she may feel isolated, cornered, or tired of trying to defend herself alone. And if Darcy hears that her daughter is being judged, insulted, and treated like a suspect rather than a person, of course she is going to want to get there fast. Darcy's arrival could become a major turning point because she may be in the best position to set the record straight on some of this family history. If questions about Remy are hanging over Dylan, then Darcy might be the person who can explain exactly what happened, what nobody knew, and how unfair it is to act like Dylan was somehow complicit in any of it. And honestly, it would be satisfying to see somebody come in and force the conversation to move away from rumor and back toward facts. Also on Thursday, Hope gets some guidance from Deacon at a time when she is clearly struggling. The spoiler about fatherly advice could cover a few different things, but emotionally it feels like it may be tied more to family than fashion. Hope's relationship with Brooke has been strained, and no matter how old Hope gets, there are some wounds that hit harder when they involve her mother. Deacon is one of the few people who can talk to Hope from a place of unconditional support while also understanding the complicated history in that family. He may urge her not to shut Brooke out completely. He may encourage her to leave room for repair, even if she is hurt and not ready to forgive everything overnight. At the same time, Deacon has his own emotional baggage piling up. So if he is the one giving advice, it will be interesting to see whether he follows any of it himself. It is one thing to tell Hope not to give up on people. It is another thing entirely to keep fighting for a relationship when you have just been rejected. Which brings us to another possibility. Deacon could open up to Hope about Taylor turning down his proposal. That kind of honesty might make the scene even stronger, because then both father and daughter would be dealing with disappointment, distance, and uncertainty in their closest relationships. Sometimes those are the best B&B conversations, when the emotional parallels are sitting right there under the surface. Then we get to Friday, August 28th, where one of the biggest messes on canvas inches closer to exploding. Carter and Steffy's secret is becoming harder and harder to contain, and the danger now is not just the secret itself. It is how much attention they keep drawing to it. The more they revisit it, the more likely someone is to overhear the wrong thing at the wrong time. Secrets on soaps do not stay buried because somebody confesses on purpose. They usually come out because people get sloppy, emotional, loud, or overconfident. And right now, Carter and Steffy are flirting with all of the above. Meanwhile, Finn is still fully committed to Steffy and their future. He believes in their marriage. He believes that nothing is going to break what they have built. That makes this whole situation even more precarious, because Finn has no idea he is standing in the middle of a lie that could shift everything if it comes out. Steffy's guilt may keep rising because she knows exactly how much Finn trusts her. And yet, for Carter's sake, and maybe also for the sake of protecting the bigger fallout, she appears to be staying quiet. That is a dangerous choice, especially when silence can start to feel like complicity the longer it continues. As for Daphne, she seems poised to say or do something that leaves Carter shaken. If she is talking about their marriage in a way that reflects how much hope she has invested in it, then Carter's guilt is only going to deepen. It is one thing to hide a terrible mistake. It is another to listen to your spouse talk about your future together while you are keeping something this huge from them. Now, let's move into the week of August 31st through September 4th, because the ripple effects from all of this are going to keep growing. First, Dylan's world takes center stage in a much bigger way now that Darcy is in town. This is where the show can really decide whether it wants viewers merely to sympathize with Dylan or fully root for her. There is a difference. Sympathy comes from seeing someone attacked unfairly. Real investment comes from understanding what they have survived, what they want, and what they are still carrying. I do think Dylan and Will are going to continue moving forward as a couple. Their relationship has already crossed into more serious territory, and as that happens, there will naturally be more overlap between Dylan and the people in Will's life. That means more scenes at the Spencer house, more opportunities for awkward encounters, and probably more clashes if Katie refuses to let this go. And frankly, if Katie keeps coming at Dylan the way she has been, she may only succeed in damaging her own relationship with Will. Parents on soaps always think they are protecting their children, but when that protection turns into control, resentment starts growing fast. Will is old enough to make his own choices, and the more Katie dismisses that, the more he is likely to push back. Bill may end up being the voice of reason here, which would be ironic in its own way. But he may see more clearly than Katie that trying to force Will toward one woman and away from another is a losing battle. If Bill tells Katie to step aside and let Will live his life, that could set the stage for an even sharper split in how his parents handle this situation. Over at the fashion side of town, we should see movement on multiple fronts. Hope and Dee working together on their next line gives Hope something concrete to focus on, and that may be exactly what she needs if her personal life feels unstable. Purpose can be a lifeline on this show, especially for characters who are emotionally adrift. At the same time, the youth line idea from RJ and Elektra looks increasingly likely to get real traction. Once that happens, there are bound to be consequences. Someone always feels threatened, overlooked, or shut out when a shiny new project gets a green light. If Dylan learns about it and mentions it to Will, that could trigger yet another layer of fallout given how much tension already exists surrounding secrets, loyalties, and who knew what. There is also the possibility that Elektra's behavior starts looking even more hypocritical if she expects total honesty from others while conveniently overlooking her own side of the equation. That kind of contradiction is soap gold, and it would not be surprising if the writers lean into it. Now back to Deacon, because I do not think his rejected proposal is just a one-episode bruise that disappears. That kind of moment lingers. It sits in the back of a character's mind and starts reshaping how they feel, even if they try to move on. Deacon may want to act like he understands Taylor's position, but her has a way of resurfacing later. If Sheila keeps hovering nearby, offering comfort and understanding at exactly the moments Deacon feels wounded or uncertain, then the emotional ground under his relationship could start shifting. Sheila knows how to make herself seem like the one person who truly gets what somebody is going through. She is manipulative, yes, but she is also patient when she wants something badly enough. That is why I would watch those scenes very closely. It may not take much for Deacon to start reconsidering choices he thought were settled. Rejection changes people. Regret changes people too. And if Deacon begins feeling like Taylor is holding back while Sheila is making herself fully available, that is the kind of emotional confusion soaps love to exploit. Then there is Daphne and Carter, who may begin thinking about what comes next for them if their marriage stays intact and their secret stays hidden. Any conversation about building a family is going to raise the stakes dramatically because it would force Carter to look even harder at what he is hiding and what kind of future he is trying to create on top of that lie. There are so many directions this could go. They could start weighing medical options, talking logistics, dreaming about what their family might look like. And if someone else offers to help in a deeply personal way, that only complicates things more. But the biggest wild card may still be Steffy. Because if Steffy ends up pregnant after that drunken mistake, everything changes. Suddenly, this is not just a guilty memory or a secret hookup buried under shame and denial. It becomes something tangible, something with consequences that cannot be talked away, and something that would blow up multiple relationships all at once. That is why the next stretch of episodes could get especially volatile. You have Dylan refusing to be a punching bag anymore. You have Hope leaning on Deacon in a vulnerable moment. You have Deacon possibly drifting into dangerous territory with Sheila nearby. You have RJ trying to prove himself. You have Elektra and Will's issues still leaving residue behind. You have Carter and Steffy sitting on a secret that feels more explosive by the day. And you have Ridge wrestling with doubts that may or may not be resolved depending on how events unfold. Bottom line, the week ahead looks packed with emotional fallout, shifting alliances, family friction, and some very risky choices. Dylan may finally get a chance to tell her side. Hope may get the support she desperately needs. Sheila may decide this is her moment to slide back into Deacon's life. And that hidden secret involving Carter and Steffy may keep inching closer to the surface, whether anyone is ready for it or not. So there's a lot to watch, a lot to speculate about, and plenty of reasons to think these stories are about to get even messier.